Hi everyone! Today is time for the first reading journal update this year, so we'll be setting the second quarter cover spread together and having a quick chat about some books I've been reading recently. As always, please leave your own reading updates, thoughts or recommendations in the comments. Reading those is my favorite part about making these videos. Anyway, if you're new to this series, my reading goal this year is 24 books, and I'll link the first setup video to the description where we set up these first pages together. I've now 5 books into my goal, maybe not the best start to the year to be honest, but there's still plenty of time to catch up later, and I also really enjoyed a few books I read, so let's get into it. In the previous videos, I've mentioned that I was reading The Six of Crows, which is by far the most recommended book for me. This is a widely popular young adult fantasy duology with an exceptionally high rating on Goodreads, and now after reading both books in the series, I completely understand what all the hype is about. Young adult genre is not something I typically reach for these days, but this one has an overall pretty dark and heavy tone, which is why I think I still enjoyed it so much and makes it perfectly suitable for adults as well. So it has some heavy subjects, but there's honestly a bit of everything in these books, like dark and traumatized characters, adventure, plot twists, amazingly complex world, and romance, which made me shiver and hold my breath even though much less happened than what I'm used to. These are also so well written, and I mean, it really is a perfect story, at least for my taste personally. I absolutely love the characters. I especially fell in love with Cass and Inesh, but all of them are so real with interesting pasts, and the group dynamic is so well done as well. I really didn't want the second book to end, and overall, I think this made me excited about this genre once more, which I'm so grateful for. One thing I'll say is that it took me a while to get into this story, because this is the type of fantasy that just drops you in a faraway land and starts firing you with gibberish, so just keep that in mind. When the actual story started and you meet all the characters, it gets much easier to follow. So thank you to anyone who recommended this to me. I'll definitely read more from Leigh Bardugo moving forward, and I highly recommend these to any fans of fantasy, scheming, and adventure. By the way, I always try to show you some clips of setting up these book pages because I think it's nicer to look at something while I talk about the books. I don't really explain what I'm doing here much, but everything I'm using is linked in the description, though most of it is just printed from the internet on a white sticker paper, like all the pictures you're seeing, but everything else is linked down below. But anyway, I had quite major book hangover after finishing The Crooked Kingdom, so I chose to go with something very different and possibly promising. So next I read the book Verity by Colleen Hoover. Again, a very popular writer whose books I've never read for some reason, and this one, I was honestly speechless when I finished reading it. It gave me very mixed feelings. Also, this one has some major trigger warnings, especially child abuse. It's very dark and creepy, and I would not recommend this if you don't like reading books that make you feel uncomfortable. That being said, I'm almost ashamed to admit that I think it was a great read. It's purely a thriller in my opinion. Sure, it has some romance and steaminess in it, but it's still a thriller. I've read and watched my fair share of messed up crime mysteries and stuff, and there were still parts in this book that made me want to throw my Kindle out of the window. I'm not gonna spoil anything in these videos, however, there might be some spoilers in my notes that I write in my reading journal, so just keep that in mind. But the ending in this book definitely came out of nowhere, but still, Okay, this might just be me, but I felt like there was potential to make this book like 10 times creepier and more messed up than it already was. I'm so glad that it didn't happen because it would have most certainly destroyed me. But you know those stories that are just dark, where everything is sad before it gets even worse, and then you're hoping for a happy ending and it never comes and you're just left with a dark hole in your heart? This is not that kind of story for me. There was something good, I guess. Again, mixed feelings, but I'm happy that that little light was not completely ripped away from the reader. So yeah, this is a book that will definitely stay with me for a while, but at the same time I read it in a record time because I simply couldn't put it down, so I guess that says something. I decided to go for this layout where I placed all the pictures on the right side and then wrote all my notes on the left. And then I decided to finish everything with these beautiful stickers from Ikigai Papier, which is the shop run by Heda from Mochi Bujo. So these are also linked to the description. She has beautiful stuff, so you should definitely go check her out. Anyway, after these quite remarkable few reads, I wanted to pick up something hopefully a bit lighter and funny, so I chose to go with Frost, which is the first book in the Frost and Nectar duology. This is a new adult fantasy romance that I honestly wish I would have loved, but in the end it was just okay and I ended up not finishing this one. To be really honest with you, many books in this genre are a little bit lackluster for me. I just feel like I'm reading reality TV in a book form, and what I mean by that is that it goes only a few levels deep in terms of the plot, the world, and the characters. Everything happens very quickly and it's just mostly about getting to the steamy romance part. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong about liking books like this. This one also has a pretty high rating on Goodreads, so I think there is definitely an audience for it. And if you're in the mood for something light, funny, and simple, I think you might really enjoy this one. I just wish I would find something in this genre where the whole story carries in itself and there would be a little bit more depth and elegance, I guess. But yeah, I didn't end up setting a spread for this book, so let's move on to the last book I read this time, which is none other than Lord of the Flies. I mentioned in the previous video that I would like to read a few classics this year, and this was a short one, so I decided to just go for it. I actually never had to read this at school, so it was my first time reading it. I only vaguely knew what the story is about, and well, I'm not even gonna pretend that this was an extremely entertaining read for me, but I do think it's an interestingly done analysis of the dark side of the human mind and laws of the civil world. There's probably nothing I can say about this book that hasn't been said before, but if you're looking into getting to read some more classics, I think this one might be a pretty easy place to start. It was surprisingly unsettling, especially towards the end, and yeah, reading it just makes you feel grim in the same way as reading some pretty devastating news does, because it shows how easily things like fear, power, and laziness can cloud our common sense and make us destroy ourselves. I wanted to use some of these stickers on this page I was sent a while back from Kawaii Pen Shop. I actually think that these red splash stickers made this whole page look a little bit unsettling as well, and it was kind of how I felt about the book, so we're just gonna leave it like this. But anyway, that was the last book I read for now. I've been able to cross quite a few things from my book bingo already. There were maybe a few more I could have crossed off, but I didn't want to do too many per one book. It kind of felt like cheating a little bit. But anyway, now all we have left is to set the cover spread for the next 3 months. In this spread, I wanted to mainly use these Notebook Therapy Hinoki products, which they kindly gifted to me. They are from their second release called Into the Tea Room. I've been waiting for an opportunity to use this product somewhere because honestly, I think these are the most beautiful washi tapes I've ever seen. My jaw dropped when I opened the package. But anyway, I wanted this spread to have a very light, muted aesthetic. I think the paper I used here is from the original Hinoki scrapbooking set, and I was just having so much fun here combining all these beautiful things and finding a few printed pictures from my collection that suited the rest of the colors. I've said this before, but this quarterly approach is one that has worked very well for me. I'm not one of those people who can manage to read multiple books per month. I'm honestly amazed when I see reading goals of over 100 a year. That's insane. Last year I couldn't even get to my 24 book goal, but it's okay because all of us have different lives, different goals, and different motivations for reading. In my opinion, reading anything really is already such a win, and the reading journal is something that makes me so happy when I flip through it. I know I'll treasure this journal forever. Filming these videos limits my use of it a little bit because I always think that if I set up something out of the camera, I don't have any footage to use in these videos, but I still write all the reviews beforehand, look for some pictures that I feel like resonate with the books and stuff like that. A lot of the pictures I'm using are on my reading journal Pinterest board. I'll link it for you in the description as well. Also, if you like to see a little bit more real-time updates or lists of all the books I've been recommended to, etc., I do have a Goodreads profile, so if that's something you use, feel free to add me as a friend. I also love to stalk you guys there and see what books you're reading. But yeah, back to the page. So I really liked to have this small reflection box in my previous cover, so we're gonna continue with it moving forward as well. And then when it comes to my reading ideas for the spring season, I think I'll start with The Other Bowling Girl. This is a book I've had on my Kindle for a while, and I have a feeling that I might really like it. It reminds me of Jane Austen a little bit, with just a little bit more modern touch. Then I wrote down The Far Horizon, which is from the Pirate series of Marcia Canham. I was actually supposed to write the third book here. I believe this is the fourth one in the series, so a small mistake there. But anyway, then I really want to start reading the Millennium series, which is a popular crime mystery series. You've probably heard about the first book, which is called The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I actually can't believe I've not read this yet. Then I wrote down Throne of Glass, which I've kind of been wanting to start recently. To be honest, I've been putting off starting this one because I didn't have the best luck with longer series last year, and this one is like 7 books. But I've just heard so many good things about it that I think I'll take the challenge some point this year. Then I also listed The Golem and the Genie, which seems like a very interesting historical fiction. I don't know much about it, but everything I read seemed very promising. I think this ended up being one of my favorite covers I've ever done. I just love all these light colors together. And as always, let me know what are your reading plans for the next few months. I'm so excited about everything on my reading list at the moment, and I hope I'll have some more free time during the spring. But anyway, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye!